Among the many rumored relationships that surrounded Elizabeth Taylor's complicated romantic history, none has stirred more fascination among Hollywood scholars than her alleged affair with the mysterious and reclusive Greta Garbo. These two women, icons of different eras, represented almost mythological extremes of Hollywood glamour. Garbo, the aloof Swedish goddess of 1932nd cinema, and Taylor, the violet-eyed tempest of the post-war studio system, whose passion and public scandals made her one of the most recognizable figures in the world. Their rumored connection offers a window not only into Taylor's private desires, but also into the strange intersections of fame, loneliness, and yearning that defined the lives of women who lived behind Hollywood's golden curtain. According to multiple biographers, the first meeting between Garbo and Taylor allegedly took place in the early 1950s at the home of director George Cukor, a man famous for hosting private Sunday salons, gatherings where closeted stars, creative outsiders, and Hollywood's most guarded personalities could enjoy a rare evening without scrutiny. Cukor's events were legendary for their confidentiality. Attendees understood that what happened there remained sealed behind reinforced doors and thick curtains. This secrecy allowed Garbo, who had largely retired from acting and public life, to occasionally socialize without fear of photographers or gossip columnists. It also provided a rare escape for the young Elizabeth Taylor, who, though still in her early 20s, had already spent more than a decade being packaged, monitored, and controlled by MGM. The attraction between Taylor and Garbo, according to several historians, grew initially out of mutual curiosity. Garbo was an enigma, a woman who had successfully walked away from the studio system at its peak, crafting a level of privacy that even the most powerful Hollywood men could not penetrate. Taylor, by contrast, was at the height of her beauty and fame, yet trapped within the studio machinery that shaped her every public gesture. To Taylor, Garbo represented a form of freedom she desperately longed for. To Garbo, Taylor represented youth, danger, and a kind of emotional wildness that had never fit comfortably within Garbo's own disciplined, solitary life. Sources familiar with their alleged connection describe a surprising tenderness between the two women. A caretaker at a private estate in Ojai, California, later claimed that Taylor and Garbo spent a secluded week there in the summer of 1953, a period that aligns with gaps in both women's known schedules. The caretaker recalled that the two requested absolute privacy, that meals were left outside the door, and that Garbo, despite her famous distaste for social interaction, seemed unusually relaxed in Taylor's presence. The contrast between the women only deepened the attraction. Garbo was famously reserved, her emotions guarded to the point of near invisibility. Taylor was a creature of volcanic feeling, her passion erupting through every marriage, affair, and public scandal. Where Garbo moved like a shadow, Taylor burned like a flame. Yet both women shared the unique experience of being treated as visual commodities, faces and bodies molded into fantasies for public consumption. They understood, perhaps better than anyone else, the loneliness that results from being adored by millions, but truly known by almost no one. The alleged affair, if the accounts are accurate, was brief but formative. While Taylor was not yet fully exploring her fluid sexuality, her connection with Garbo introduced her to the possibility of a love that operated outside the rigid heteronormative boundaries enforced by Hollywood. Garbo, long rumored to prefer women and famously involved with several during her life, reportedly offered Taylor a glimpse of emotionally deeper, less transactional intimacy, connection unmediated by male ego, studio pressure, or public expectation. Historians note that Taylor seemed to carry Garbo's lessons with her long after the alleged romance ended. One former member of Taylor's household staff recalled the actress saying that Garbo taught her, "Privacy isn't just something you protect, it's something you create," a philosophy that shaped how Taylor navigated fame in later decades, particularly during her marriages to Richard Burton. Though neither woman ever publicly acknowledged the relationship, unsurprising, given the era's hostility toward same-sex intimacy, the consistency of accounts from multiple independent sources suggests that something meaningful occurred between them. Whether their connection was romantic, sexual, or deeply emotional, without crossing physical boundaries, it represented a collision between two of Hollywood's most luminous but isolated souls. In the end, the Garbo-Taylor connection is less a salacious anecdote than a portrait of two women seeking refuge in each other's presence at a moment when both were trapped in different ways by their own legends. The alleged affair marked the beginning of a lifelong pattern for Taylor, forming bonds with women that offered emotional truth where her public relationships offered spectacle. It remains a testament to the private world behind Hollywood's golden age, where the brightest lights often cast the deepest shadows, and where two iconic women found, for a brief and hidden moment, the freedom to simply be themselves. Marilyn Monroe, the rivals who embraced. Of all the rumored relationships in Elizabeth Taylor's hidden romantic history, none is more ironic or more emotionally layered than her alleged intimate connection with Marilyn Monroe. The Hollywood studios spent years cultivating a narrative that positioned these two women as rivals. Taylor, the regal brunette beauty whose violet eyes could convey operatic passion, and Monroe, the luminous blonde whose breathy vulnerability made her the ultimate American sex symbol. In public, they were framed as opposites, contrasting archetypes competing for the public's admiration, attention, and cinematic crown. But behind the carefully crafted illusions of mid-century Hollywood, the two women reportedly found something far deeper than rivalry. A brief but powerful intimacy shaped by shared trauma, mutual understanding, and a hunger for authentic connection in a world built on performance. Their alleged relationship began during the mid-1950s, a period when both stars were experiencing the harshest extremes of fame. Monroe had already become the world's most photographed woman, her life micromanaged by studios, psychiatrists, and the men who attempted to possess her. Taylor, barely in her 20s, had already been married twice, weathered scandal, and learned firsthand how the Hollywood machine consumed young women until their identities blurred with their roles. According to multiple insiders, the turning point came at a private party in 1955, hosted by a director known for his ability to gather powerful Hollywood figures away from the prying eyes of gossip columnists. Taylor and Monroe had crossed paths many times before, but always under the scripted politeness demanded by studio publicity departments. At this party, however, they reportedly found themselves alone in a quiet corner, sharing cigarettes and candid conversation without the pressure of cameras or studio handlers. Several individuals who later recounted the encounter described an immediate shift in the atmosphere between them. Monroe, often insecure despite her public persona, was vulnerable that evening. Taylor, with her natural emotional intensity, was drawn to Monroe's fragility. What began as an unlikely moment of connection between two women, the world insisted were enemies allegedly sparked a private relationship that blended emotional intimacy with physical attraction. One former makeup artist who worked with both actresses claimed that the chemistry between them was unmistakable. They were rivals in public. In private, they were wrapped around each other, he later said. Though such accounts must be treated as unverified, they echo the testimonies of several others within the same circles. Taylor and Monroe understood each other in ways almost no one else could. Both women were over-sexualized from a young age. Both endured the crushing demand to embody male fantasies. Both experienced deep insecurity beneath their glamorous facades. And both were trapped within marriages designed in part to protect or enhance their studio-crafted images. In each other, they reportedly found a person who understood the unique pain of being both adored and devoured by the world. The emotional dynamic between them, according to biographers, was striking. Taylor admired Monroe's intelligence, something the industry refused to acknowledge publicly, and was captivated by the contrast between Marilyn's public sensuality and her private fragility. Monroe, in turn, was drawn to Taylor's strength, her refusal to shrink, her ability to command attention, and her remarkable resilience in the face of scandal. The alleged affair was conducted with extreme discretion. The consequences of exposure would have been catastrophic. In the 1,950 seconds, a confirmed same-sex relationship involving two of the world's most famous women could have ended their careers instantly. As a result, their rumored meetings occurred in private homes owned by trusted friends or staff, with the actresses arriving and departing separately. Sources suggest the relationship, though brief, carried genuine affection. It offered both women a sense of validation they rarely found elsewhere. Not the validation of the camera, but the validation of being seen, truly seen, by someone who shared the same wounds. Their connection reportedly faded as their lives diverged. Taylor became entangled with Eddie Fisher in what became one of the decade's most infamous scandals. Monroe, meanwhile, battled increasing emotional turmoil, professional pressure, and dependency on substances. Yet Taylor, according to several members of her inner circle, maintained a lifelong tenderness for Monroe. One household staff member later revealed that Taylor kept a small photograph of Marilyn tucked away in a drawer she opened daily, a private memorial that remained untouched until Taylor's death. The relationship between Taylor and Monroe, whether romantic, emotional, or both, defies the simplistic narrative Hollywood constructed. Instead of rivals, they were reflections of each other's deepest fears and hopes. Two extraordinary women who shared, for a brief secret moment, an understanding that transcended the spotlight. Montgomery Clift's girlfriend, the unexpected triangle. Among the more complex and quietly intimate chapters of Elizabeth Taylor's hidden romantic history lies the alleged triangle involving Montgomery Clift, his longtime female companion, and Taylor herself. Unlike the glamorous legends of her connections with Greta Garbo or Marilyn Monroe, this story unfolded not in gilded salons or secluded estates, but in hospital rooms, private homes, and the quiet spaces where grief and recovery blur the boundaries between friendship and something more. For Taylor, Montgomery Clift was not simply a co-star, he was an emotional anchor, a fragile soul whose loneliness mirrored her own in ways few others could understand. Their bond was so profound that when this connection expanded to include Clift's girlfriend, the woman he relied on to maintain a facade of heterosexual normalcy, it created a relationship dynamic unlike anything Taylor had experienced before. Taylor and Clift first connected during the filming of A Place in the Sun in 1951, forming a friendship that quickly became one of the most enduring and cherished of Taylor's life. Clift, a closeted gay man navigating an industry where exposure could mean total ruin, found in Taylor a safe harbor. She accepted him unconditionally, defending him publicly and shielding him privately. Taylor, in turn, found in Clift a kind of companionship she had never experienced with any of the men she married. He wanted nothing from her, not her fame, not her beauty, not her body, only her company, her loyalty, and her understanding. Behind Clift's public life, studios insisted he maintain a heterosexual image. To protect him, Clift entered into a relationship with a woman whose identity remains guarded in almost every account. A woman described as intelligent, compassionate, deeply private, and entirely aware of Clift's true sexuality. She was not a beard in the shallow sense, she was a partner in survival. Together, they built an arrangement based not on romantic passion, but on mutual respect and the shared burden of protecting Clift's career from Hollywood's relentless moral scrutiny. The triangle allegedly took shape after Clift's catastrophic car accident on the 12th of May 1956, a night that has become Hollywood legend. Taylor, who had been dining at a nearby home shortly before the crash, raced to the scene, pulling Clift from the wreckage and clearing his throat of broken teeth before he suffocated. The act cemented a bond already forged in trust, turning friendship into something closer to familial devotion. During Clift's long and painful recovery, Taylor became a fixture in his home, aiding his partner in the exhausting task of caring for him. The two women, Taylor and Clift's girlfriend, formed an alliance forged not through glamour but through crisis. They were united in their mission: protect Monty, save his career, shield him from the studios, and preserve what was left of his dignity. It was during this emotionally charged period that their relationship allegedly deepened into intimacy. Those who knew the trio describe a slow evolution conversations that grew late and personal. Shared grief over Clift's suffering, nights spent side by side in worry, and a bond that transcended the boundaries conventionally, separating friendship from something more. According to insiders, the two women found in each other a mirror of their own tenderness, vulnerability, and emotional exhaustion. One member of Clift's inner circle later said, "She didn't want to replace Monty. She wanted to understand what he loved." This cryptic remark has been interpreted by historians as a reflection of the emotional and possibly physical closeness that developed between Taylor and the woman who had devoted her life, Cliff's care. The relationship was allegedly unique for several reasons. Unlike Taylor's rumored affairs with Garbo or Monroe, which carried electricity, glamour, and the thrill of secrecy, this connection was born from crisis. It was not a passionate whirlwind, but a quiet entanglement, shaped by loss, fear, and emotional reliance. It was less about rebellion and more about survival, a moment where affection flowed naturally among three people who desperately needed one another. Crucially, sources claim Cliff was not only aware of the bond between the two women, but supported it. His emotional makeup, complex and wounded as it was, found a rare form of solace in seeing the two most important women in his life care for each other. For him, their closeness offered stability in a world where he lived in constant fear of exposure. Eventually, as Cliff stabilized and resumed working, the triangle shifted back into a more conventional dynamic. Taylor returned to her career. Cliff's girlfriend resumed her role as his caretaker and emotional anchor. The alleged romantic aspect of Taylor's connection with the woman faded not through conflict, but through the natural passage of time. What makes this story particularly compelling is not the rumored intimacy itself, but what it reveals about Taylor. It shows her capacity for connection beyond boundaries, her refusal to confine love to expected shapes, her ability to follow her emotions wherever they led, even into arrangements that defied categorization. It illustrates a woman who loved deeply, fiercely, and at times unconventionally, and who embraced intimacy in all its forms without the need for labels. In the end, the alleged relationship with Cliff's girlfriend remains one of the most complex, human, and emotionally layered connections in Taylor's life. A testament to her empathy, her fluidity, and her extraordinary ability to form bonds in the most unexpected circumstances. Eddie Fisher's secretary, the staff betrayal. Elizabeth Taylor's marriage to Eddie Fisher, already born of scandal and destined for collapse, carried with it one of the most quietly explosive chapters in her hidden romantic life. Her alleged affair with Fisher's young personal secretary. It is an episode that unfolded behind the walls of their shared home, within the rhythms of daily life, and beneath the shadow of a marriage that was rapidly unraveling. While the world saw only the headline-grabbing chaos of Fisher's pursuit of Elizabeth and her eventual abandonment of him for Richard Burton, a far more intimate drama was playing out just off stage, one that revealed Taylor's restless heart, her relentless search for emotional connection, and her ability to upend expectations even within her own household. During the late 1950s and early 1960s, Fisher employed a young female secretary who was, according to multiple accounts, intelligent, discreet, and quietly striking. She was not a glamorous Hollywood beauty. She was approachable, self-contained, and deeply competent qualities that carried their own kind of allure, especially for a woman like Taylor, who was surrounded by people who wanted something from her. As Fisher's career waned and he became increasingly insecure in his marriage to one of the most famous women in the world, the secretary became an indispensable figure in his professional and personal life. The more dependent Fisher grew on her organizational skills, the more time she spent in the Taylor-Fisher household, a proximity that would carry unforeseen consequences. According to those familiar with the situation, Taylor began noticing the young woman not as an employee, but as a presence calm, intelligent, and emotionally stable in ways Fisher was increasingly not. The marriage, already strained by public judgment and Fisher's anxieties, offered Taylor little comfort. The secretary, by contrast, brought a sense of order and steadiness. She asked for nothing, expected nothing, and carried none of the emotional demands that Fisher placed on his wife. For a woman like Taylor, who longed for emotional grounding, this quiet steadiness became magnetic. One former staff member later remarked, "She fell for the girl who took his calls and stopped taking his." The irony, insiders agree, was palpable. Fisher, who had pursued Taylor while still married to Debbie Reynolds, found himself watching as the same pattern played out within his own marriage, except this time the interloper was female. Accounts from studio insiders suggest the affair began around 1960 at a time when Taylor was still reeling from personal grief, professional pressure, and the suffocating scrutiny that followed every step she took. The housekeeper's affection provided something no other partner could: unconditional presence, unfiltered honesty, and a grounding force that kept Taylor connected to her humanity. This relationship, more than any other, reveals Taylor's capacity for intimacy that defied class boundaries and traditional notions of romance. The power dynamics were undeniably complex. Taylor was the employer, a global icon, a woman of immense privilege. Yet, insiders insist the emotional power often flowed the other way. The housekeeper's stability anchored Taylor, giving her the security she could not find in Hollywood or her marriages. The secrecy surrounding the affair was ironclad. The housekeeper was loyal, discreet, and deeply protective. She never sought fame, money, or acknowledgement. Even after her employment ended, she maintained silence, a silence that spoke volumes to those who knew her. The relationship ultimately faded, not through conflict, but through the gravity of Taylor's public life. Her marriages, her health crises, her humanitarian activism all demanded time and energy that pulled her away from the quiet refuge they had built. Yet, the emotional imprint remained. Taylor reportedly continued to support the housekeeper financially long after their relationship ended and kept her in her will, in a gesture that insiders interpreted as both gratitude and love. In the final analysis, Taylor's alleged intimacy with her housekeeper encapsulates the essence of her hidden romantic life. Her refusal to limit love to socially acceptable forms, her yearning for authenticity, and her ability to form deep, transformative connections with people who saw her not as an icon, but as a woman in need of comfort, tenderness, and understanding.